Ms. Panganayi Cleopatra, congratulations for receiving JSCE International Outstanding Collaboration Award for 2021. I am excited to hear about your projects and your experience.
Thank you very much.
First, I would like you to give an introduction about you.
All right. My name is Cleopatra Panganayi. I'm from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is in Southern Africa, and my hometown is Harare, which is the capital city of Zimbabwe. Just a little bit of a background about my country. The area is about the same as Japan, but the population is about 10% of the population in Japan. So as you can imagine, the density in Japan is 10 times as much as in my country. I've been resident in Japan since 2006, so it's been more than 16 years. My education and qualifications, I graduated from the University of Zimbabwe in 1999 with a BSc Honors in Civil Engineering. And then in 2006, I moved to Japan, to Totoro University, to study Masters and PhD. And my major was high performance concrete. Other training that I've had includes the JICA International Cooperation Program, which I did before the graduate course in Totoro University. And currently I'm undertaking a master's in construction law and dispute resolution from King's College, London. In terms of certification, I have a professional engineering license from Zimbabwe, and I've received an award from the Japan Society of Civil Engineering last year, which is the International Outstanding Collaboration Award. My employment record is shown here. After graduation, my graduation in bachelor course in Zimbabwe, I joined a consulting engineering company, which was a private consultant for my formative years. And after that, I joined the government Ministry of Transport and Communication and Infrastructural Development. And I got the position of Chief Provincial Engineer, and at one time became the acting Deputy Director. Then in 2006, that's when I moved to Japan for my graduate studies. And after that, after graduating with my PhD, I joined Oriental Consultants Global, which is my present firm. I am in the road engineering department. And since 2014, I became a senior engineer, and currently I'm a manager. The countries that I've worked in under Oriental Consultants Global include Philippines, India, Ivory Coast, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and of course, Japan. I'll say a little bit of my research experience in Japan. In Totoro University, I was researching on improvement of serviceability or crack performance in high performance fiber reinforced cementitious composites. It's a material called HPF-RCC, and the target material was engineered cementitious composites. This material is kind of like special. It's an emerging material, but its specialty is that it's ductile. Even though it's a type of concrete, it is ductile. It exhibits ductile behavior, which is very important for crack dispersion. This research was an English-based research, and I was under a Mobugakushu or mixed scholarship. In our laboratory, there were more than 6 nationalities from diverse backgrounds, different languages and culture. But what was important was the inclusion, which made everything very smooth operation in the laboratory. And the program was rich, and it taught me self-development and also tolerance of different cultures. The projects that I undertook while I was in Zimbabwe was in two parts. When I was working for the private consultant, I was involved in urban infrastructure. So I was involved in the planning, the design, construction, supervision of urban infrastructure, including roads, stormwater drainage, and water supply. And then when I moved to the government, I was responsible for management of 6 districts in the Northwestern province. And there also I was involved in managing the planning, the design, construction, supervision of rural infrastructure. And it was during that time when I was working for the government department that I was selected to join a JICA technical cooperation project in Japan. And the program was multicultural, as you can imagine, and involved engineers and government officials from 10 different nationalities. Of course, there were challenges because of the diverse backgrounds, but through tolerance and inclusion, the program was successful. And after, it was a 5-month to 6-month program, and it was based in Totori. But even though it was based in Totori, we had to take field trips to many parts of Japan. Then currently in Oriental Consultants Global, the firm that I've been with since 2012, I'm in the road engineering department, as I have mentioned, and our projects mainly JICA funded and involve road and bridge infrastructure projects in developing countries. I'm involved in planning different stages of the project, planning, design, construction, supervision. And in our projects, we apply Japanese technology from time to time, including weathering steel, steel pipe, sheet pipes, the SBHS, some of you will know it as steel for bridge high performance structures, high performance concrete, mechanically stabilized earth walls that are commonly known as terroarme. Through the undertaking of these projects, because they are in diverse cultures in different countries, there is the underlying key to our success is diversity and inclusion, whereby we have to work and navigate through different cultures, working cultures, different government structures, in different rules per se in every country. These are some of the projects that I have been involved in. This is Meghna Bridge in Bangladesh. This is a second now bridge it's a cable stayed bridge in Uganda, which was completed in 2021. Then currently, the longest project that I've been involved in Oriental Consultants is in Myanmar. It's a road and bridge project, improvement project that is, the location is in 7 regions and 7 states in Myanmar. It's a JICA loan, and it involves the improvement and new construction of roads and small bridges connecting small towns and cities. And in all total, the sub-projects amount to more than 30. So as you can imagine, it's we have to navigate through different states, different cultures, different regional offices. But through the project, we are realizing our goal, which is basically poverty reduction through improvement of connectivity in Myanmar. And the underlying also factor, which is key for our success in this project, has been diversity and inclusion, which has been key for navigating a different kind of client to the one that we are basically used to. Then I also have another project, which is probably my favorite project in Oriental Consultants, simply because this project is located in Zimbabwe, which is my home country. And it's also located in the province where I spent most of my time working while I was in government in Zimbabwe. This project is a JICA grant aid, and it started in 2016. We completed phase 1 of the project in 2020, and currently we are working on phase 2. The scope of the project involves planning, design, construction, supervision of a mountain road. And the importance of this project is that it's a regional corridor that's connecting 4 countries in Southern Africa. It involves road widening and addition of climbing lane to basically improve the safety of the regional corridor. And as a Zimbabwean engineer who has been working as a consultant in a Japanese firm, it's been very important and significant that I've become like a bridge between the 2 cultures, that is the Japanese culture, working culture, and the Zimbabwean working culture. And I've been instrumental in bridging the communication for smoother execution of the project. And I have a few photos of the kind of work that we have been doing, that we've done so far, even as we are now planning for the second phase of the project. Then this project I was involved in briefly in 2020, from 2020 to 2021, in the design stage of a JICA step loan. It's another type of funding mechanism from JICA. The project is located in the Philippines. It's design of a coastal road and bridge connecting 2 islands. So as you can imagine, it's a large scale project, and involves a joint venture of 3 Japanese consulting firms. And in these firms, of course, there are different cultures, and even though they are all Japanese consultants, the working culture in each of these firms is different. And it's been also a very significant project for me because of the scale, the scope, and the location, which is kind of like unique. My aspiration as a civil engineer is to bridge the infrastructural gap between developing countries and developed countries. As you can imagine, I'm from a developing country, and grew up there. I was trained in a developing country. I worked in a developing country, but I had a chance to come to Japan, which is a developed country, and to further my education there. And now I'm working in Japan and involved in large-scale infrastructural development projects worldwide. I take that as a privilege and an opportunity for me to bridge the infrastructural gap between the poorer countries and the more developed countries. There's an article that I wrote in the JSC Let's Go Abroad magazine in 2022 in April, the April issue, where I kind of like explained a little bit more about my work experience and my aspirations and desire in my career to bridge the infrastructural gap in the world. As I see it, as primarily the privilege that we have as engineers to make a difference in people's lives through infrastructure. Finally, I would like to just give a saying, which is kind of like my motto as a civil engineer. And this statement was given by the former American President, Franklin D. Roosevelt, who also happens to have been an engineer, as I understand. He said, there can be little doubt that in many ways, the story of bridge building is the story of civilization, because by it, we can readily measure an important part of a people's progress. For me, civil engineering has an important role in changing livelihoods and reducing poverty in communities. I see it really as the story of bridge building, the story of civilization in communities, because you go in as a civil engineer in a country or in a community which has hardly any infrastructure. But by the time you leave and you hand over the project to the community, their lives will have been completely transformed. Bridging communication gap is key to bridging the infrastructure gap. And as you work as a civil engineer, it is important to understand that the communities that you go into are diverse. So you have to be inclusive and to make a difference. And to always remember that the work you do is more than just work. It is actually the story of building bridges to change people's lives. Thank you very much.
Your introduction was very interesting. Thank you. Next, I would like you to ask a few questions about your project. As you talked in your introduction that you were doing research in Japan,
Yes.
Why did you choose Tottori University?
That's an interesting question, actually, because I can't really say that I chose Tottori University. It was more like when I came for the JICA International Cooperation Project while I was working for the Zimbabwean government. The leader of that course happened to be a professor at Tottori University. Of course, I had a chance during that short program, JICA Technical Cooperation Project, to visit many parts of Japan and many project sites during the site visits. But I really liked Tottori. It's special. It's countryside, yes. It's not as busy. It's not as big as Tokyo, but it is a charming. I think it is a charming town. The people are very kind, and the nature is very beautiful. And I thought if I wanted to do a graduate study, if I needed to really concentrate on my studies and on my research, Tottori would be an ideal place. And I'm glad to say that I found it to be so.
Thank you. The next question. Listening to your introduction, you were involved in large projects in several countries. That sounds very hard. What kind of challenges did you have in your project?
Challenges in my project, I think, mainly relate to communication. I think in my presentation, I mentioned many times about the importance of diversity and inclusion when you do projects of a global nature, because you interact with people from diverse backgrounds. As consultants, we come from different firms. Sometimes we're in a JV with members from different companies. And then also when you go into a country, they have a different kind of a working culture. So you need to be able to communicate with them so that you can get to an understanding and be able to navigate through the project smoothly. So I would say communication has been a challenge, but gradually you learn to be able to navigate your way.
Thank you very much. This is my next question. And what makes your job worthwhile?
I feel and see the job that civil engineers do is bridge building, is changing lives. Because when we get to a community, you basically go there to transform the way, the everyday life of ordinary people. So that's what makes it worthwhile. Because we don't go to a place that is running smoothly. We usually go to a place where there are problems, there are issues with transportation, with traffic, with road safety. And our aim and our objective is to fix that problem and make sure that people are safer and they are moving smoother. So for me, that's what makes it worthwhile, that my job is actually about changing people's lives.
Thank you very much. And then this will be the next question, and I would like to hear about your vision for the future.
Well, my vision for the future, probably I already touched on it in my presentation, is to bridge the gap, the infrastructure gap between developed and developing countries. Because because I live in Japan and I see how comfortable it is here, how smooth the transportation system is, how smooth the infrastructure, relationship with the people is. I would like to be able to be instrumental in providing the same to less developed countries. Of course, my country would be at the top. That even I'm a Zimbabwean engineer who is living in and working in Japan, I would like to be a bridge between Japan and Zimbabwe, and also between Japan and the developing world per se, and be able to introduce some of the fantastic infrastructure that designs and technology that is here in Japan, that has been developed here in Japan, to be able to introduce it to developing countries. I think that's my vision for the future.
The time has really flown. I still want to hear about your project, but we are running out of time. Lastly, I would like you to give a message to young civil engineers and students.
Well, to the young civil engineers and students, my message is very simple, that civil engineering is hard work, and civil engineering is communication. If you cannot communicate as a civil engineer, it is very difficult for you to navigate your way. So remember that you are a bridge, and a bridge is a means of communication. So wherever you are, whatever you are doing, just remember that communication as a civil engineer is very important. And best wishes, of course.